I'll flick around the link tomorrow when I send out all the presentation as well. So first, thanks for everyone taking some time out this morning to join us. I've added a few things to the agenda that I actually updated yesterday. Hopefully some of the things are a little bit more relevant. But if there's any questions throughout, just let me know. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are gathered on today, a land on which we play our great game of Australian football. I acknowledge elders, both past, present and emerging, and pay our respects to the Aboriginal connection to land, sea and spirit. So our agenda, so I've sort of just mixed it up a little bit and grouped some things together that I think are a little bit more relevant. Added a couple of development strategy programs to go through and just touch on that have either already happened or are starting to happen. And I've added a couple of just general points at the very end around things that have already sort of started to happen as well around Vic. But before we get started, just want to welcome, we've got a new addition to our team, AFL Goulburn Murray. So before Christmas, Sam Wood moved on, took a job at the State League as a development coach and admin, and his replacement is Andrew Moore, so the new Regional Director of Umpiring. Andrew's already been involved quite heavily in the region in umpiring as, I think I'm going to get your role, Andrew. I think Andrew was the president of the Goulburn Valley Football Umpires Association, so already very familiar with the landscape and the umpires up there, but now he steps into a more an official role to help out. So welcome, Andrew. I did see Andrew on the line.
Thank you. Yes, I am here. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Look forward to meeting you all.
We'll try and get that face-to-face session at some point with everyone.
Sounds good.
So we're going to kick over to Al straight away to talk an update in the school umpire course and the female mentorship program.
Thanks, Talbo. Thanks, everyone. I know it was a pretty busy meeting, so I'll just try and keep this quite brief. So luckily enough, we're heading into another school year with hopefully minimal interruptions. And the last few weeks, I've been contacting our previous school umpire course facilitators, and obviously through your help, and thank you for all of your support with that, finding some new facilitators for 2022. So as most of you know, on Monday, I delivered a introduction workshop for new facilitators and a refresher workshop for those rejoining us this year. And really pleasingly, we had 16 attend the introduction course. We've actually got 26 new facilitators this year, which is really exciting. I guess reason being for that is we have a lot of people who, particularly in that kind of facilitator role, they are at university. And so I guess year to year, they do start full-time roles and things like that. Hence, we do have quite a big, I guess, new influx and big turnover of those particular facilitators. So Monday night, as I said, we had 16 attend. There's some really great questions and information, I guess, shared in that. And I guess from your perspective, nothing has changed this year for the school umpire course. So essentially still 4 lessons. Requests will come to me. I'll pass them on to you. You then pass those on to your facilitators, and hopefully some really successful courses and some uninterrupted courses, which will, as we hope, end up in some recruitment for your umpire clubs. I guess just the part to note on that is we have quite a few coming through now for, I guess, this term and for next term. So what I'll do later today is I'll just confirm to you those facilitators that have, I guess, acknowledged they would like to continue, and those who are new to your particular umpire club this year. Some of your umpire clubs still don't have anyone, I guess, associated with your particular club, but that's okay, because what I will do is I'll forward you the information anyway that I've given to new umpire school umpire course facilitators, and on that Google Drive, as I've sent to you in the past, all the information and resources are on there. So the unit plan with lesson plans, school umpire course flyer, if you want to send that to any schools, the recording of the introduction session if people want to go through that. So realistically, if you don't have anyone signed up, that doesn't mean people can't still go and do that course. Again, as I've said in the past, I've written a lesson, so they're really quite detailed, which means that anyone can pick it up and actually deliver that. So I'll send those through later today. And if you have any questions about that or the process, as I said, the process hasn't changed this year. So that hopefully will all run really smoothly, which it has, I guess, the last couple of years. Probably just the last bit on that is obviously, as you know, with those people working with children, they need to make sure they have a current working with children's check. And I'm sure you're probably all across that, but just if you need to, just remind them they need to take that to school with them to show that school. I did say that on Monday night, but I guess that's just a reminder that knowing we haven't necessarily been in schools as much the last couple of years, they do, I guess, go out of date. So just to make sure they are all up to date. Any questions on the school umpire course just before I touch on the female mentorship program? Awesome, thank you. Again, if you do have any questions, suggestions, anything at all, please let me know, because as I said in the past, we really want to make it the most successful course for you. And what that is obviously recruiting the most umpires that we can. So hopefully that will be a really positive experience for students this year with minimal interruptions. The other component obviously is the female mentorship program, which in Victoria will be running for a 3rd year. And I guess just to let you know, and I think I did in the national conference for those who were there in November, it is going to be a national female mentorship program this year, which means we're going to be delivering the online sessions nationally. At the moment, we have a group from every state and territory, which is really exciting because we know how successful the program has been in Victoria, and we wanted to make sure that we're providing those opportunities across Australia. The really exciting thing is that we still have Libby Tuvey and myself helping to facilitate the Victorian group. In the next few weeks, we'll look to head to an AFLW match, and then obviously doing some more in-person sessions if we can, which is really what we missed out on last year, or the last 2 years, sorry, where the opportunities just didn't arise for that. I guess that's just the component about that. It's looking really exciting. I think we've got over 100 participants nationally, which again is going to hopefully help for retention in terms of Australian female umpires, and then hopefully help that recruitment piece where the other girls are seeing what opportunities that these girls are being introduced to and involved in. So again, if you have any questions on that, many girls from your different leagues who are now either in the VFL system or on the Talent Academy list are the girls that are involved in this program. And as I said, we've had some really, really fantastic feedback in the past and hope to continue that, because at the end of the day, the main aims of this particular program is to support the girls, provide them with people to speak to if they need to, personal and holistic development in terms of different skills and leadership and communication and things like that, but also to provide that support network and really for the girls to see there are many other girls out there who are umpiring in a similar position to them. Thank you for your time today. Again, if you have any questions about the school umpire course or female mentorship program, please don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Al. Doesn't look like there's any questions, so we'll just keep moving on. So next, I'm just going to go over some of the community umpire development strategy programs, ones that I didn't touch on in December. So I touched on five programs in December. I'm just going to touch on 3 now, just a bit of a refresher for everyone moving forward. I think these 3 are probably a little bit timely for this time of the year. So firstly, the School Umpire Academy. I actually did go through this in December, but I'll just go through it again because it's probably more timely to start, looking at implementing this now, especially those who have run this previously as well. So School Umpire Academy is different to the umpire course. So the umpire course is basically a 4-session program, which, schools can manipulate to do in one day. They can do it, over 2 sessions one week, 2 sessions the next week, or just four sessions over 4 weeks. Generally run in school hours during PE sessions. The School Umpire Academy is basically an after-school training site for students at the school to try and recruit students to umpire. And the key difference is that these students are registered to umpire that same season. So they're not just doing a 10-week course and not umpiring. They're doing a 10-week training and education program after school rather than going to your official training facility and still being appointed on weekends. The funding from AFL Vic will remain the same, so $500 to cover, whether you put that towards a coach, whether you put that towards coaching and resourcing. It's up to you how you use that. On most schools that do utilise this, just pay the coach for the full 10 weeks. But just after some data after the last few years and looking how this has been implemented, there's going to be a couple of little changes. So I did go through this in December, but I'll just go through it again. So the format is it's an after-school program, minimum 10 weeks. Doesn't have to be weekly, can be spread over multiple terms, just depending on how the school structure works and the coach availability, etc. The community umpire, a community umpire, will act as a coach. So that person, now they must have either completed the coach accreditation previously, or if they do take on this role this year, they need to start their coach accreditation this year. So they don't have to be an accredited coach now. but if they do take up this role, we will be asking that they complete their accreditation this year. The students are appointed as league umpires, so they're not just attending training sessions after school for the sake of spending time at, after school, running around. They are registered and appointed as your league umpires. So they also, they'll be first year umpires, so they need to complete the introductory course, which means they'll need to be registered in Officials HQ. And if the school's in a metro area that's not using Officials HQ, then they'll need to be registered with Sports TG so they can access Scheduler as well. There's two different formats that I have heard of. You can either offer field or boundary umpiring to the students, or you can, what I've seen at Camberwell, which is what this is mainly based off, is that students start as boundary umpires and they do 4 to 5 weeks training and education as a boundary umpire. And then for those students who actually want to dip their toe as a field umpire, they can transition across while the others remain boundary umpires for the rest of the program. But it is up to you and your coach that you'll have, how you want to promote that with the school, whether you do just offer it as boundary umpires to start. It's a bit easier, it's less intense learning the rules rather than being field umpire to ease them into the discipline of umpiring, but it'll be up to you. Now, there's no curriculum for this, it's 10 weeks, but I would recommend that. I'm sure most of you would have some sort of first year umpire education plan where you'll have, sessions for junior umpires who are learning the ropes. So I'd recommend that you just implement your same education that you want your first years to know when they're coming to you from outside of a school system anyway. With the funding requirements, so 50% will be can be invoiced to me as soon as your program starts, and then the following 50% to be invoiced at the conclusion of the session. So after you've done your 10 sessions and all the students that have registered have completed their introductory course and they've umpired a minimum of 1 game. So and then the percentage for, depending on the size of the group, because some of the courses over the last 3 years have varied from as little as 8 students to as high as 27. Now, obviously, the more students you have, the lower the registration rate is going to be. So I reflected that there. So if you've got a program that's 12 students, 80% of those students will need to be registered and umpire a game and do their introductory course to qualify for that second 50%. So that's the School Umpire Academy. If there's any questions quickly. All right, excellent. So to start, if you've got a school lined up, just let me know who your coach. So I just need to know who your coach is, the school contact as well, and your start date. And then once the start dates come through, we'll invoice and pay that first $250, and then at the end of the course, I'll reach out to those that are running this program about the second step. Another timely one, so the Athletics Club engagement, I did share this later last year as a bit of a different engagement strategy. So this is simply just trying to connect in with a local athletics club. The commonality is the running part, so kids or adults who do athletics, they're obviously already passionate about exercise and fitness and running. So if they're not umpiring is a great great activity to be doing during the winter months when they're when athletics clubs are generally having their off season. I know there's a umpire, I think Gippsland umpires have paired up with one of their athletics clubs, and they're sharing and alternating training at the moment over the preseason to help recruit. So umpires are being recruited as athletes and athletes are being recruited as umpires. So it helps both ways. So just a reminder on that one. Refer to, I can resend out the list of athletics clubs and links to umpire clubs as well. So the AFL Umpire Community Ambassador Program, so that's already been set up and up and running. So if you have been contacted, it means that AFL umpires, put your umpire club as a preference to be an ambassador for you. So that's 8 hours of engagement with your umpires throughout the year. We do ask that you be as creative as possible. Now, I did send also the COVID protocols for this year. Now, that does make face-to-face engagement a bit harder because it does need to remain outdoors at this stage. But you can still try and be as creative as you want with your AFL ambassadors. If you did not get contacted about this, I do apologise, but unfortunately, there was no AFL umpires who put your umpire club down as a preference. Again, if you would like some AFL umpires to come up and visit at certain points in the year, or you've got a season launch or an event coming up that please fill in the request form. That link has been sent around a few times. Please fill that in and we'll follow up with some umpires to try and come out to umpire clubs throughout the season. And just lastly, club engagement practices. So I've seen a little bit on social media recently, some really good examples here. So Riddle umpires, they're partnering with some of their junior clubs to do a 5-week program. So footy players to do some education in umpiring. AFL Northeast Borders of Buckets is online. They did a come and try session at a football club. They did a match sim in another football club. So really engaging with their clubs to just normalise umpiring as that first step. Hopefully, Michael can report at the end of the year that actually results in some additional umpires coming from those clubs as well and taking up the discipline. YJFL, and I know Michael at Northeast Border also did this. So in the player registration, they've actually included a question, are you interested in umpiring? I'm not sure how many groups actually do that. Now, YJFL have had 500 plus yes responses to umpiring. So they've now got 500 additional contacts where they can send out umpiring information and try and recruit those people. So if you haven't thought of that to include in your player registration within your leagues, bring that up with your footy ops people to try and include, because there's a very simple way to see if you've got footy players interested in umpiring. Any questions around any of the club engagement activities? We'll keep moving on. Officials HQ, so I know this doesn't apply to everyone, so try to keep this as concise as possible. So a couple of updates. So first, the user group has been created. I've already sent all this information out. Now, at the moment, we are asking that you don't rely on the super user if you don't have a super user in your region, because their training starts next Tuesday. So if your region doesn't have a super user, please still come to me for any operational issues. We've had an update last week that if umpires are not completing their 2-step process, a more simpler way to actually get them around that is to simply ask them to log in and click on forgot password, and they'll actually generate the process for them to complete their registration. So that should help following up umpires who are not, either looking for that second email or aren't receiving that second email once they do set up their account. Working with Children Check, so based off the last workshop we had with Jean, so just continue to do a little bit of work with her around more the exemptions that I've been asked about recently. So at the moment on Officials HQ, the working with Children Check details is not mandatory when umpires are completing their registration. So that is at the moment it's designed to make sure that umpires are not being are not facing a barrier to just do their registration. So at the moment it's still just free to dismiss. Now there will be a point later in the season, there's no date as yet, where the working with children check will become mandatory, and once that is turned on, any umpires who are over 18 in Victoria who have not completed their working with children check details won't be available to be appointed through Officials HQ. Now, if they're not a teacher or a police officer, they need to get a working with children check. I've been asked about teachers and police exemptions. the best practice is simply to have your league or your umpire club policy state that all umpires must have a working with children check, which is also part, so of that little screenshot I've put in grey. So that actually comes from the Working with Children Check website. Some organisations have their own policies regarding who needs a check. So the Working with Children Check site actually states that a company's policy overrides any exemptions. The reason we're suggesting that that's best practice because teachers and police, they still need to apply for an exemption even if they're doing additional work outside of their general teaching and police work. So they either need to apply for an exemption, which then creates more steps to follow up and track behind the scenes, or they just need to apply for a Working with Children check for umpiring, which is free because it's a volunteer. So either way, those teachers and police officers need to complete some sort of application. For best practice and ease of umpiring clubs to make sure that we're all compliant, best practice would be to just have in your policy that umpires over the age of 18 require Working with Children check. I've just seen a couple of statements and questions. When will Working with Children checks be syncing so we know they are compliant? Are you talking about, sorry, Pauline, so are you talking about when are they being checked in the system? Yes. So what I've been told is that OHO, so OHO is the system that is doing that. I believe that it is currently doing that already, but at the moment, because the compulsory part of Official HQ hasn't been turned on, it's not following up umpires who actually haven't completed their details yet.
No, that's okay. Just yeah, I only know of one other group that's using OHO, so I know it's working for them.
Yeah, so Officials HQ.
That's elite.
Yeah, so from what I've been told, Official HQ actually uses OHO. So AFL Victoria, so the AFL will be using OHO broadly. That's
okay,
my understanding.
That news still hasn't gotten out because AFL Southeast knows nothing about OHO when I raised it with them.
Okay, so I don't think it's a per group. I think it's just that's what the AFL is using. Okay. They're using OHO to do the checks through the Working with Children check details that will be submitted in Officials HQ. Okay. That's my understanding, but I can follow that up for you if there is something that does need to happen afterwards.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What OHO is?
Sorry, Jock.
What is OHO?
So OHO, they're an external provider who do the Pauline, you might actually be able to answer this a bit better than me. So they actually do the checks against people's Working with Children card registrations in line with any misdemeanors or cancellations to ensure that their registration is still valid.
Yeah, so they're a compliance platform. So if anyone knows what Everproof was, basically it's replacing Everproof. So that was used, that always checks with the government computers to make sure that everyone is still compliant, as opposed to you just knowing that someone's got their Working with Children's and having no way of knowing whether something has occurred since they got it. So the checking works. I've never had anyone come back to me and say that, it's not now compliant, but and it should tell you when you're up for renewal, which Everproof used to do as well.
Thanks, Pauline. Okay, so I'll keep moving on. So next one, so the LMS. So there is a link. I was going to demonstrate how to show the link for people using the LMS, but I have just been told that the introductory course is active, but the Safeguarding Children module hasn't been uploaded yet. So once all that is ready, I will show you how to access the LMS link and promote that with your umpires. What I don't know is that if some people have found the link and they've done their introductory course, at this point, I'm not sure how the safeguarding module will be implemented moving forward for those that have already done it. For the Metro Leagues not using OHQ, we won't promote your umpires creating their OHQ account for accreditation until we know exactly what the steps are in place for those umpires. So it's just all done in one neat step for you. Okay, lastly on Officials HQ, so there are some webinars coming up. So this one here is for Umpire Management. So this is for umpires. So these are sessions that will help your umpires follow registration processes, how to use Officials HQ from their point of view in terms of their availability and learning management, etc. So they're the dates. The links for those sessions for your umpires to register are at the club help site, so the link's there. So please feel free to share those links with your umpires so they can register for those sessions, so they can get attend the webinar so they know how to use Officials HQ as well. Are there any other questions around Officials HQ before I move on?
Can I just say, are you going to try to make those compulsory for the umpires?
Yeah,
it's very hard to make those compulsory when they're not actually linked in that Officials HQ system.
Yeah.
Now, if there is a way to actually get the recordings and send the recordings to umpires, so that is something that we can once they're done, I can share the links to the recordings so you can again send them to your umpires. But there's no way to make an umpire watch the vision or attend the webinar. Yeah,
just thinking maybe it could become part of their accreditation.
It could be a session that you run at training that you do as a training session or a coaching session when you actually show them the video.
It'd be a good idea to send the links to us so we can just send them to umpires. I noticed this is another website we're taking people to. Why isn't this available on the Officials HQ in the Umpire.afl website?
So the Umpire.afl site shows the next 4 webinars that are the nearest to happening. So there was a webinar this morning that was on there. There was a couple other Umpire Management for admins sessions. So as these sessions get closer to the day, or they're the next 4 available sessions, they'll then be added to the Umpire AFL website. So they're just showing the next 4 rather than showing the entire list. The Club Help has all the list, but the Umpire AFL site shows the next 4 that are available. So people, I guess, are continuing to engage with Umpire AFL to keep checking and find the session that's going to suit them the most.
So these ones you've got on the screen are the same session repeated on each of those times?
Yeah, so it's the same session, just at a different time. So it's not you have to attend all 5. It's the same session, just at different times and different weeks throughout March for people all around the country to attend them.
No worries.
Okay. We'll keep moving. So VLine, the Umpire Talent Academy, just a couple little updates for everyone. So firstly, the NAB Under-17 Girls Future matches. I've been including this first point in all my weekly updates, but if any of your umpires do a futures match, please send me the invoice, but it needs to be addressed to either Lee Fraser or Paul Hamilton. So if the home team is one of the NAB country teams, so Bendigo, Dandenong, Geelong, Gippsland, GWV or Murray, it needs to be addressed to Lee Fraser. If it's a Metro team, so Calder, Eastern, Northern, Oakley, Sandringham and Western, it needs to be addressed to Paul Hamilton. The rates are $80 for a field, $60 for a boundary, $56 for a goal, max of 3, 3 and 2. Now, because these are paid matches, and I know there's a couple of regions where academy umpires are a little bit thin based on availability in cricket and whatnot. So if you can't use academy umpires to fill the appointments, then it is okay to either use adjacent academies. So I know Northern and Eastern have actually been helping each other out to fill futures matches, or using experienced league umpires, because they can be paid for this. But please only resort to that if you cannot use academy umpires from your group. For State League NAB Girls matches, so if any of your umpires are appointed to those, and at the moment I'm still including anyone that's involved in an appointment there, you can invoice Luke O'Brien directly, so his email's on the screen, and depending on what the discipline is, field umpires are $90, boundary $80, and goal $70. Skills and PD sessions. So we've got our first PD session on Monday. I've already emailed and sent out information to all umpires involved, and the login link will be sent tomorrow. First session is former AFL umpire, current VFL assistant coach Chris Camlins, who's going to talk on leadership. He's been running the culture and values program at the State League for the last year, so he's going to talk about what he's been doing and what the goals are. We'll also have 3 AFL umpires join that session to talk to each of their disciplines. Meeting link will be emailed Friday, and to any academy staff. I'm going to share the recording later in the season just to allow the academy umpires first chance to go and watch that session after the fact. And then once I make it more public, then you can share it with your broader umpiring groups if you'd like. We've also got the Umpire Skills Day on Sunday. So that's already been organised. I do want to thank Michael Wilcox, Craig Herman, and Billy Mitchell have organised their 3 sessions in their regions. They've organised catering and they've organised a ground. We have umpires, AFL umpires going to those sessions. I've already communicated that to each of the groups. If coaches would like to attend to watch and get any skill drills from them, you can, but there's a couple of conditions. Coaches cannot enter the oval. They need to stay outside the oval, and they also need to stay away from the vicinity of the club rooms or the change rooms where umpires and AFL umps will be using that area as a storage area or using it for change rooms and toilets. So any additional local coaches can attend to watch, but they cannot go on the oval and they cannot engage with the groups once the session starts. So please make sure that any coaches that attend adhere to that. We are under pretty strict protocols to ensure that we get our AFL umpires being involved in all these sessions, and this will include throughout the year. So if it's found out that someone's not following these protocols, we'll lose this privilege. So please make sure your coaches are aware of that if they're attending.
Me again. The NAB clubs, can you get them to hold their end of the bargain with shirts and stuff? Because there's been nothing on them, and we've got new members in academies. We've got no NAB shirts.
Okay.
You know, we're doing these games for free, and they're actually taking advantage of that.
Yep.
We certainly had a game on the weekend in North Shore with the Oakley Chargers. The under-16 game ended up versing another region, so it was actual practice match.
Okay.
And then afterwards was the intra-club match, which is ones we're supposed to supply for free. So they're taking advantage, and they can't even hold up their bargain and throwing across a cheap shirt.
Yeah, I'll follow that up. I have asked a couple of people individually when I've noticed there's more games coming through. Most people have said, yep, either shirts are coming or they've been ordered or they've been delivered. So I'll definitely follow that up with Lee and Paul and make sure that that's passed on to the NAB clubs to follow up. And like I think I mentioned this last year, if they're not going to shell out the shirt, then you are, within your means to charge the NAB clubs for umpire use as well. So I know there's one group that's tracking all the games that they're doing because they're still waiting on their shirts that are supposed to be coming, but it has taken a little while. I know Northern have supplied their shirts. They've been ordered and done. Gippsland have ordered their shirts and they're ready. So if you're having issues with that, just let me know and I'll follow up. But they should definitely be providing some uniform for you. Under 17 boys futures have tentatively been confirmed, so it's just subject to ground availability. So they've locked in their games and their ovals. But as we've seen with the NAB girls and the futures, that some venues are changing the week of the game. So like last year, every academy will get one match pointed to them. So your matches are here, and I'll send all this information out in another email. What we would like to do this year, because the VLine Cup is running at the same, pretty much the same time as this Futures Carnival, we are wanting the umpires appointed to these games to be part of the Accelerator squad, which I will talk about shortly, and then other umpires that's either yourselves or the talent coordinator group have identified as, wanting to give them opportunity with some more highly skilled football. So we'll actually put together some panels for you to approve that we'd like to see these umpires umpiring in. If you want to make a change when we send out the panels, please let your talent coordinator and myself know so we can make those changes, because that may affect who we invite to the VLine Cup as well. So we've tried to allocate umpires to these games first, and then remaining umpires, depending on the development level, we'll invite to the VLine Cup. So that's how we've tried to structure that. There's 2 games in the middle. So again, like last year, the Vic Metro Under-17 Girls Futures representative game. So the Under-17s Futures representative game will be umpired by academy umpires. So there'll be a mixed panel. There's one early April, and there's one on Good Friday, like there was last year. So we'll invite some umpires to umpire those 2 games from across Victoria.
What's the C/R stand for?
Oh, sorry. So CR is curtain raiser. So it's a curtain raiser to the NAB boys game that is also fixtured for that day. So all the country games, bar one, are curtain raisers. Dandenong versus Gippsland on Tuesday the 12th. So that won't be a curtain raiser. That'll just be a random day during the school holidays at either Shepley Oval or at Frankston Park.
Too easy.
So moving on to the Accelerator and the VLine Cup panels and squads. So I'm meeting with the talent coordinators on Sunday night. So hopefully they've reached out to you to go through what we spoke about, which umpires we'd like to put on that Accelerator squad. And then hopefully you've given some feedback around whether you agree or want to change or add some different umpires in. So once that's finalised, again, we'll send the list out to you first just to make sure you run your eye over it. Involvement in the Accelerator squad will include priority selection to State League and talent opportunities, which has already happened, organised attendance at State League training throughout the year, inclusion in different State League coaching sessions or access to coaching vision, and involvement in modified NAB League wellbeing program, which the NAB League is going to help us sort of put that or structure it more for umpires rather than players. And then the 2021 April VLine Cup. So again, we'll finalise that list on Sunday night. We'll send the final squad to all of you first, and then we'll invite umpires. So this VLine Cup in April is more about development and coaching and education. So we won't have any State League coaches there. It'll just be myself, and I'll put a call out for some other coaches in due course. But it'll be mainly about educating some of the umpires who are a little bit younger, a little bit newer to umpiring, and could use some additional education in a week-long program. We are going to require this carnival for umpires to stay for the full week. So we have tried to focus on umpires who are in high school, who will be on school holidays or studying, so they potentially be on uni holidays as well. We're going to try and avoid umpires who are working full-time, so that way they can stay for the whole week. And just an update on our numbers. So we've had 266 umpires nominate for the Academy, 205 accepted. So that is up about 40 from January. If they haven't accepted, they cannot participate. If they don't have a working with children check completed and they're over 18, they won't be appointed to any matches. So we do have a few of those scattered around. And if they haven't supplied their vaccination certificate, they won't be included in any face-to-face activities, which includes matches in the talent program. And that's all part of the AFL vaccination policy. So if you've got any umpires who still are in that bucket that haven't completed their acceptance, or they haven't completed their working with children check, or they haven't sent through their vaccination certificate, if they complete it, we'll throw them back into the distribution list so they're included. But until that point, they won't be contacted any further from my end. Female programs and engagements. I think this is probably the last item to really talk about. It's more just a bit of a follow-up from my weekly update last week. So as per what I asked last week, AFL Vic are trying to get an idea around what the female umpiring initiatives and engagements are around the state. So please continue to send those in if you haven't. So at the moment, most of what I've heard from people are come and try sessions specifically for females, and then some female only training or academy groups. So if you've got any others, please send them through to me. I'd also like to hear about any of your female challenges. So anything that's specific to females. So I've spoken to, I'm not going to single out Sharon. Sharon spoke to me how, the football netball club structure in Country Vic is a bit of a barrier for female umpires, because females are playing netball or already involved in netball at a football club, which makes it hard to then transfer into the football side. So if you've got any specific challenges that you're aware of, please let us know, and hopefully we can maybe look at those and start to work towards them down the track to address them. And then also any blue sky thinking. If you've got any ideas you would like to implement or look into, please let us know. So off the back of Vic's report last year, AFL Vic are really supportive of all the findings, and they want to start understanding what they can do to help retain female umpires and then also recruit more female umpires. And they're doing a lot of work in the playing space as well. Just the last point I'll make. So this was sent out to all the RMs, the CEOs, league staff. So it was communicated that a sanitary bin or a disposal bin is a minimum standard for all umpire rooms for starting this year. Feedback was that there are a lot of grounds that just don't have a sanitary bin, and clubs just think that the general waste bin in the change rooms is enough. Can create some awkward situations where females are having to, go from a cubicle to a bin in front of other people. So a simple sanitary bin just helps eliminate that sort of awkward experience for a female umpire. So please make sure that your leagues are on board and your clubs are on board by having a sanitary or disposal bin in each cubicle in your umpire rooms. Clubs are being told the same for their female player change rooms as well, and toilets. Are there any comments or any observations just with your challenges that you're already aware of when it comes to female umpiring or recruitment? If there's anything that you think of, please do let me know so we can look into it a little bit more for everyone. Lastly, so I just had a couple of just general points that have come up throughout the week. So I just thought I'll let everyone know. So there was a COVID functional framework that was sent around by AFL Vic late last week. Now this, I just want to stress that this is not the way that your leagues and your umpire clubs have to manage any COVID situations this year. This is just a framework that was developed. Leagues can either use it, they can take it and then amend it, or they can just do their own thing. So it's depending on what your league or your commission would like to do. If there's any COVID impact on umpire availability, I'm not going to read this, but I'll send it out to you. So there's just some steps on how to implement a potential protocol if there's mass unavailability of umpires during a week due to COVID isolation and whatnot. So again, it's not compulsory, but it's just a framework for leagues and umpire clubs to help start to structure their thinking if they do face these challenges during the year. Secondly, so just the club visits. For those that have sent in their 2022 details with contacts, training venues and coaches, thank you very much. And I've sent everyone the link to my calendar to try and book in. I think I've got one club visit booked in weekly for the next, I've got 10 out of the next 11 weeks booked in, which is great. So I had my first one on Monday. I went and visited Western Districts umpires in Hamilton. So please, if you haven't submitted that info, please send that to me so I know I've got your most up-to-date contact and training info, so I know when and where you're training. Once I've received that, I'll send you my calendar so you can look at my availability and book in a night. If you would like, you can book in some time for me to meet with any of your operations staff or league staff, or again, you can, whatever you want me to go through with your umpire club or your coaches, your umpires, training, or coaching vision, please let me know. Up at Hamilton, we did a training session, and then I went through some rules, and then we also spoke about some recruitment ideas and initiatives that AFL Vic are doing, and then they also informed me about what their struggles were and how we talked about how we could potentially address those. So I'm free to use however you'd like me to be used with your coaches or your umpires when I do attend. And last thing, so March workshop penciled in for Thursday, March 24th, back at the 12 p.m. time slot. I'll send the meeting invite and the agenda closer to the day. Two topics that I have confirmed for that session are affiliation insurance. So hopefully I'll have someone from Marsh, but I'll have someone from the AFL to talk about affiliation and what that means. And it's probably more relevant for the independent UAs, to be honest. And then also child safety resources. So Jean will have a bit of an update with some resources that hopefully she'll be finalising in the next week, and they'll be made available to umpire clubs and umpires by then. So she'll run through those updates for you. And we've actually finished 10 minutes ahead, so I'm just going to open the floor. Is there anyone that has any other questions or queries around anything else that is going on at the moment?
Salvo, it's Holty.
Yes, mate.
We're trying to redevelop a club umpire program, so if there's anyone out there that's got something that's going to help us out, I'd really appreciate it. We've had a couple of ideas come through where we just ask each club or team to nominate one person that we can provide some basic education. Others that have worked with the amateurs that we've been told about is where they register club volunteers and put them into a pool where they still get paid to umpire. So if anyone's got anything that they've used or they've heard of or that knows that works, could they, if they're happy to share that with you, Talbo, you can pass it on to me if that's okay.
You can definitely do that. Michael Buckets, have you been doing sessions with leagues? I think I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, we've been trying to start some club umpire education programs where we might, so we're trying to get them out to the start of the season and then throughout the season as well, just to help guide them with rules and stuff like that. So it's probably an intro to try and revamp a club umpire program where they actually get paid for it. So it's probably it's baby steps at the moment. But yeah, it's one discussion I've already had with the league manager this week about trying to pay them and stuff like that. So yeah, work in progress, that particular one.
Is there anyone else that has any programs or initiatives that they've done they found works well in their regions? Sharon?
Talbot, one thing that we did, especially with the Heathcote League, because we had a lot of club umpires, was we actually created a T-shirt, like a umpiring shirt, but we put club umpire on the back of it. So, and they were getting paid still, but it was just more of a,
so that they felt more confident running out there, that people knew that they weren't an official umpire that was doing all the training, but they actually were a club umpire, and they got a whole lot less abuse. It worked quite well, actually, and it gave them confidence.
Yeah. I don't see, I know Sean, I did invite Sean Dowling from Yarra Juniors, but I know what Yarra's doing this year is so they actually use club umpires for their under 8s, 9s and 10s. So they don't supply umpires for those 3 age groups. But what they're doing is they'll be, so if clubs do accept an umpire training session for those umpires who do the 8s, 9s and 10s, and then if those umpires complete the introductory course on Officials HQ, the league's actually going to supply and cover the uniform for the umpires who do those age groups. So there's another little initiative that a different club is using. John, is your hand up around club umpires?
No.
I'll come to you after. Pauline, is yours about club umpires? Yep, go for it.
Yeah, at AFL Southeast, we never had paid umpires for under 8s, 9s or 10s either. And most of our clubs had a club umpire type T-shirt, or they were definitely in white, so that the people knew that they were clubbies. I know before I finished up there, that we had them do training courses. That was part of their accreditation, that they had to still do a course. They weren't paid at all, but we did have them participate in courses and be differently identified.
Yeah, thanks, Pauline. I think all this sort of leads to what Jock and David did at Ocean Grove last year with their pilot program, where they essentially had, they weren't really, they were sort of club umpires, but they were still league umpires who trained and learnt the craft at their own local club, and then they transitioned into AFL Bar 1 umpires. So, Jock, I know you actually spoke about your program specifically last year, but is there anything you want to add, Jock, about what you're doing this year?
Yeah, so this year we're expanding it. There's about 8 other clubs interested in introducing it in some capacity. Maybe not exactly the same, but the model is actually funded by the club itself. So they pay each kid $20 to do a game. It's from their under 14, under 16 or higher groups. And they build that into their junior club membership. So the entire junior program inside the club pays for this program. They also supply them with a shirt, and then other clubs are requesting their kid umpires to use the Ocean Grove ones, and obviously Ocean Grove then charge that club the $20 to make it even. So other clubs are now interested in getting their junior players into a program that's primarily run 100% by themselves. We just supply a resource once a month to go down and attend the session, assist with any heavier type coaching, and then we look for the transition through the season. So some of them put their hand up to want to be boundary umpires, some to be field umpires around their playing schedule, and we accommodate that as it is. But primarily it's 100% run by the clubs and with our support.
Thanks, Jock. So Holty, maybe if you want to reach out to one of those people who've just spoken, we can definitely pass on some contacts if you need to, and you can talk directly to someone around what they've done, and you can talk more specifics around how you can get something implemented in your region.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Stella. Thanks everyone else too. I really appreciate
it. John.
Yeah. First of all, thanks, Andrew. And Andrew came down and talked to our umpiring association, ran 2 sessions, and it was great. So thank you very much. It was very, very, very valuable. That's not the reason that I asked. The introductory course where we're talking about all the umpires have to do that, so I understand it. Where's the link for that? I must have missed it somewhere.
So it's on the LMS. Now there is a link in Officials HQ.
What's LMS stand for, sorry?
So that's the Learning Management System. So
okay.
That's where all the courses will be this year. They'll be online in a new website that'll be linked to Officials HQ.
Okay.
now I said earlier that there is a link there now for umpires to go and do it, but there's one module that we are planning to launch that's not there yet. So I was going to show everyone, but I'm not going to show you just yet, just because we're hoping to get this module done first.
Thank you.
So when that's ready, I'll definitely let you know.
Thank you.
Will that be part of the March workshop?
Hopefully I'll send something out with some video or a lot earlier than that, depending on when it's all ready to go.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's quick, Andrew, because we've already got people starting to do it.
Yeah. So Jean's finalising she's just finalising all her details now, making sure that it's all the correct setup and whatnot. So it's just a matter of getting it ready for use.
And when is the expectation around the development and advanced courses being available?
That I think I'll need to check. I'm not sure if Brenton, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's going to be a little while, Jock, unfortunately. Our resources are really thin. The focus at the moment is on the coaching platform. And unfortunately, we've been slipped down the pecking order a little bit with our requirements for the development and the advanced course. But I can't give you a concrete date when it's going to be. But we've got 2 people working on it at the moment, and it's very frustrating because it's slow. But you're right. We rely so much on online support for our umpires, and there's only so much that we can do face to face. So I know a lot of the regional, across Australia, there's a lot of umpiring associations that rely on online modules for their education. In Queensland and WA, where umpires are asked to travel 2 or 3 hours to training, we need them to be able to access online education. So it is a priority for us, and trust me, we are pushing it as hard as we can, but unfortunately we've been slipped down the pecking order a little bit. But it's coming, Jock, don't worry, it's coming.
Thanks, Brenton. Buckets.
NAB OzKick grid games. Were they happening this year, or?
Yeah, I've been told they're happening, but I haven't been given the details on how many grid games there'll be per AFL match yet. So yeah, when I've got that info, I'll start to ask for expressions for rounds or whenever you want to bring umpires down. I think I mentioned this late last year. So in the past, the OzKick halftime OzKick has been focused, or it's been pretty much limited to 2nd-year umpires, and only I think max age of 19 or 20. OzKick is all about participation, and the participation team would actually like to open it up to ensure that more umpires are getting access to the chance to umpire on Marvel Stadium or the MCG. So OzKick will be opened up for any umpire that you actually would like to just recognise and give them a chance to umpire on an AFL ground, and then even for regional umpire clubs, we'll work to, if you want to bring multiple groups down and just cover two AFL games in a day, rather than bringing 4 kids. I know last year they cut their grid games, so it was only four games at an AFL match. So if you will work to look at whole days when you've got buys in your competitions, to try and increase that participation, and then obviously we'll mix in school courses as well, to get students involved. So, but umpire clubs will be prioritised number 1 before schools do OzKick games.
Sounds good.
I just got a quick one for Jock, if possible. Did you say that you guys had practice matches going through Officials HQ?
Correct, yeah. We've got nearly all of them in. So.
Yeah, and that was pretty straightforward to set up.
Harrow's the man there. He set it all up. It's set up through Play HQ. You set up a fixture, and then you're into your matches. So at the moment, we've got the Barwon, which is Geelong, Ballerine, women's and junior boys, girls. But then to do the CDFL or the GDFL, we've got to set up a fixture inside that competition. in order for to be able to put their practice matches in. So, but saying that, we'll have about 80% of our practice matches, and we've already used it last weekend for the academy matches, and we're using it this weekend as well for one practice match. So when the bulk of practice matches start the following weekend, we can use the appointment system.
Okay. And obviously, given Officials HQ and Play HQ are separate, a super user, Talbot, would probably not be able to do that. You'd have to have your own Play HQ login.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's where Harrow comes in for Barwin. He is a user in both platforms. So it's the fixtures and the games have to be done in Play HQ, and then they automatically integrate into Officials HQ. So once the league or whoever the ops staff has done it for your competitions, then they'll be available in Officials HQ. So if they haven't put their practice matches in Play HQ, they won't come up in Officials HQ.
Okay.
So Billy, Tony Saunders, it's a stagnated integration process. So we were one of the ones integrated last week. So other areas will be integrated over the next couple of weeks. So until that integration takes place, you can still set the fixtures up in Play HQ, but once it's integrated to Officials HQ, that's when you'll see it.
Yeah, sure. All right, thank you.
My understanding with those is a bit complex too. Cross-league games, whereas I think Barwin's set up as an actual competition rather. So I know with Northeast Border we're set up as like a governing body rather than an actual competition. So can't put a fixture directly under us, but have to go on one of the leagues, and then if you've got cross-league clubs playing against each other, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing with SGUA. I'm not sure that we'll be able to get the leagues to put the practice games in.
You can, Harrow, if you're online, I think, are you? You could explain that there's a default team for teams out of region, I think.
Yeah, so I've just been putting them down as unknown, playing unknown. So we've got some clubs coming from Melbourne to play Geelong League clubs. So I've just put it down as, for instance, Grovedale versus unknown, just so the practice match can go into Officials HQ.
Okay.
So maybe, if you're aware that one of your clubs in your region is playing a club outside your region, might be good to let your footy ops staff know to do some practice like that. I think Jock, you've mentioned to me in the past, you used to just do, for example, Grovedale versus Grovedale if they were playing a team outside of your Barwon region.
Yeah, so certainly when you did it in Sports TG and Scheduler, you put it in as unknown, but the scheduler would read it as, well, for us, our default seemed to be Spotswood all the time. So we had Spotswood playing 10 times on one day, but that was the default team that they used in Scheduler. But in Sports TG, it was set up as you just clicked unknown that they were playing. So when you use your manual spreadsheets, you might have the proper teams who they're playing, so the umpires know all that type of stuff. But no system's been able to register a team out of your region in the two platforms that I've seen. So I think you could probably, for people just doing the first time, if Harrow's available, you could reach out to him. We can share screens and show you how we've set it up and what the appointments look like, stuff like that, other than some of the other hassles we're having with nothing in alphabetical order. We could certainly show you what it looks like in a live environment, how the practice matches are set up.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that if that's possible. Did you have to create an unknown team, like a team with the name unknown in the fixture?
Yeah. So
because my understanding from what I've seen in with Play HQ is it won't allow you to select. I mean, it will allow you to have two of the same team in the fixture, but I'm not sure how that translates.
Yeah, so with the appointment that we did on the weekend for this NAB League Academy game, it just come up saying AFL Barwon versus AFL Barwon. Okay. But with clubs that are linked, it shows them versus unknown. And as Jock said, like I'm happy to catch up with people outside the meeting and show exactly how it comes up, because it'll make a lot more sense, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, I'll touch base with you if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be keen, Harrow, as well. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, we'll maybe hook up later today.
Yeah,
If you're free.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just knock up a Teams meeting, Harrow, and we'll jump on and give a little session to see show how we've done it. It may not be the perfect way, but it's how we've done it, and it seems to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else with any other questions or queries? Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time this morning. Hopefully the information was relevant and helps going forward. If there's anything else, after today, please reach out. Please let me know any of the female programs or initiatives that you're doing or would like to do, or the challenges. And what I'll do is, because of this session, I won't send out a weekly update next week, because the weekly update will pretty much be all of this. So no weekly update next week, but I'll send the recording, presentation, some of the extra info we spoke about tomorrow or early Monday. Thanks, everyone, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Talbo.
Thanks, Talbo. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.